Hey loves, Tony here from TL Yarn Crafts. Your resident fiber lover just got a big bag of goodies from Hobbii, a web-based yarn store. I haven't purchased anything from Hobbii before, but they reached out to me for a review and my yarn snob senses started tingling. Hobbii offers lots of products from yarn to hooks, notions, and even patterns. And for my first review, I'm checking out an assortment of Hobbii branded yarns. For each yarn, I'm giving my initial reaction, likes and dislikes, and rounding things out with my rating of 1 to 10 hooks. Links for all of the yarn mentioned are down in the description. Now, let's get started. We'll kick things off with Tweed Delight. I couldn't pass this one up. It looked like so much fun. So Tweed Delight is a category 4 worsted weight yarn. The yarn consists of 85% wool and 10% acrylic, with the last 5% being the viscose that makes up these pretty little flecks. It costs $6.99 for a 50-gram ball, which gives you 109 yards. The color palette is a mix of bright and funky shades with some more mature neutrals thrown in as well. I was really interested in Tweed Delight because it reminded me of We Are Knitters' The Petite Wool, but with tweed in it and less wool. For comparison's sake, I considered that Tweed Delight would be $14 for 100 grams, while Petite Wool is $17 for 100 grams. While it's not a steal, Tweed Delight is a pretty good alternative if you want to save some coins and still get the same effect. Right off the bat, Tweed Delight performed exactly how I expected a wool-based roving yarn to behave, and that is very badly. The wool sticks to itself, which makes the starting chain and the first row a bit of a pain. If I was working with this yarn further, I absolutely would start by winding the yarn into a cake to make things easier on myself. But honestly, once I got going, I really started falling in love with this yarn, especially this really pretty color. I was pleasantly surprised to see that the flecks didn't fall out of the yarn while I was working with it. In fact, the flecks really made the experience that much more fun because I got to see how they randomly pooled as I worked up more stitches. And as a crocheter, I would definitely say that you'll get more out of this yarn by going with simpler, smoother stitches like I did with this swatch. So I'm gonna give Tweed Delight 7 out of 10 hooks. Now this yarn is much softer than I expected it to be, and even more so after some stitching. The sales page says that this yarn is a good choice for soft sweaters, but I'd honestly have to disagree. Any place with friction on a sweater is gonna result in pilling or even felting over time, and I just wouldn't wanna be worried about that. In my opinion, I'd stick with winter accessories and maybe some home decor with a pretty yarn like this. Next, we have Mohair Delight, a 50-50 mohair and acrylic mix. I really wasn't sure what to expect when I added this yarn to my basket, but the halo really did have me curious. Mohair Delight is a category 4 worsted weight yarn that comes in 50-gram donuts of 164 yards. One donut is going to cost you $7.49, and though that might seem high, it's honestly a real bargain for the amount of mohair that you get in a yarn like this. The yarn itself is a 2-ply construction with that signature mohair halo. The 34 color palette is gorgeous with saturated, even tones throughout. I honestly had a hard time picking just 3 for this review. The colors are timeless, and the moody hues give this yarn a luxury that you'll be hard pressed to find at this price point. The initial stitches with this yarn were pure joy. I thought I'd have an issue working with it as pure mohair can be a beast, but not with this one. I'm guessing that the acrylic is what makes this a little bit smoother coming out of the donut. And you wouldn't be able to tell from looking at this yarn that there's acrylic in it. It behaves just like mohair held double with merino wool. You can kind of feel the acrylic when you're stitching with it, but you'd really have to be looking hard to see the difference. This is a really, really nice yarn. As I kept stitching, I really couldn't help but stop every now and then and admire how even the stitches were and how lovely the crochet experience was. I was even surprised by the drape, and it got me imagining how this yarn would perform in a larger piece. I took to Ravelry to see if there were any pieces made with this yarn. There really weren't too many, but I did come across Kristen's Feather Weather cardigan. Oh my gosh, isn't this thing beautiful? Now she used Mohair Delight for the shoulders on this piece, which is a great choice because the acrylic in this yarn is going to stand up well to the movement and the stretching that happens in the yoke of a project like this. So Mohair Delight is going to get 8 out of 10 hooks for me. I feel like this yarn has a lot of potential, and it takes all of the best parts of the fibers involved and lets them shine. It's an easy choice for gauzy sweaters and shawls that need a touch of extravagance. It's also a really nice substitute if you don't have the stomach or the wallet for full-on mohair. Please give a warm welcome to Zephyr, one of Hobbie's newest yarns. Now let's clear the air about this beauty right off the bat. It does indeed look just like whatever. It looks like stonewash, okay? But I assure you, it is not stonewash. Zephyr is a category 4 worsted weight yarn that consists of wool and acrylic fibers blown into a cotton mesh tube. In case you're wondering, stonewash is a cotton and acrylic mix with no wool. Now that does make a really big difference when it comes to warmth and weight. The wool will give this yarn some warmth, while the cotton keeps it from becoming too warm. Also, the addition of wool makes this yarn lighter, meaning that you're going to get 164 yards in a 50-gram ball of Zephyr and only 82 yards per 50 grams from sheepies. Sheepjes. Look, I've been saying sheepies, so I'm just going to say sheepies. Now, back to Zephyr though. The 50-gram ball is going to run you $5.99 each, but if you're watching this video close to the date of publishing, Zephyr is actually on sale for just $4.05 a ball. Even if you have to pay full price, it's worth every single penny. This yarn is straight up dreamy, boo. The cotton helps it move smoothly over my finger, and the wool makes it feel like a little bitty hug. Even with the halo of the blown fibers, you still get some amazing stitch definition. I bet that comes from the way the fibers poke through the cotton tube. Now at this point, I'm convinced that this yarn will look good with any stitch. I decided on something smooth for this review just to make sure the yarn could really shine, but my guess is Zephyr would complement every stitch from bobbles to mesh and even fans and probably cables. I really can't find anything bad to say about this yarn, so I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 hooks. I can't give it a perfect 10 because it's not exactly a new concept, just an improvement in my opinion on something that is tried and true. If you're considering trying out Zephyr, I'm sure you won't be disappointed. A yarn like this works perfectly for blankets, accessories, and any kind of wearables you can think of. While everyone is going gaga over super chunky crop vests, I think Zephyr would add some much needed sophistication to this trend. I mean, it's truly the difference between fashion and style. I mean, who is going to be wearing these chunky ass vests like 2 years from now? The last of the animal fibers I'm reviewing is Diablo, Hobbie's alternative to the pricey but lush kid mohair yarns that are making the rounds in the hand-dyed world. Diablo is made up of 40% acrylic, 30% mohair, and 30% polyamide, another man-made fiber. Diablo is a lace weight yarn with nearly 250 yards per 25-gram donut. It's going to cost you $5.49, which is much easier to swallow compared to the $30+ you're going to spend on 100% mohair. Before stitching this yarn, I decided to wind it into a cake, and I'm so glad that I did. Any mohair yarn is going to stick to itself, and it's a total disaster if this stuff gets tangled. So do yourself a favor. Take the extra 5 minutes to cake up this yarn. Making a cake also makes it 100 times easier to work this yarn up double-stranded. Now look, Tony don't have the patience, nor does she have the courage to crochet lace yarn single-stranded, so I didn't even bother. Working Diablo double-stranded was tricky to start, but once I got going, albeit at a much slower pace than normal, I was good to go. If you're looking to use this yarn, plan to hold 2 or even 3 strands of Diablo together, or hold this yarn double with a merino wool or even a cotton. I went with a V-stitch for this yarn, just to see how far the fibers would go to fill the spaces between stitches. With this yarn only being 30% mohair, you definitely don't get that dense thicket of fibers that you'd expect between stitches, but the overall effect was still very much pleasing. The higher acrylic content also means that this yarn isn't quite as soft as a 100% mohair. A yarn like this is for people looking for an alternative. You'll lose some of the key features of a full-on mohair yarn, but the look, the overall crochet experience, and the 60 color palette more than make up for it. Now, I'm not typically someone who reaches for mohair, but Diablo would be on my list if I did. I'm gonna give this yarn 6 out of 10 hooks. As someone who uses mohair so rarely, I'm just more likely to reach for the real thing. We're gonna wrap things up with Rainbow Cotton, Hobbie's claim to fame. These folks are serious about their cotton, offering this yarn in fingering weight, sport weight, and DK weight, as well as in 10 and 20 color packs, in solid and printed thread, in heathers, organic, and even in glitter. If it's 100% cotton you want, baby, it is 100% cotton you are gonna get. I focused my review on the 8x6 cotton, which is a level 2 sport weight yarn with a tight 6 ply. The 50-gram ball costs $2.49 and offers 150 yards of buttery smooth cotton. The sport weight yarn is offered in 40 colors, though at the time of recording this, many of the colors are sold out. Let me put you up on game real quick, right? So Rona has supply chains in the yarn industry all out of whack, and many of our favorite companies are feeling the strain. Luckily, you can request that Hobbii get in touch with you when the yarns you want are back in stock. If you've been around a while, you might know that I am not a huge fan of cotton, but gosh darn it, Hobbii might have me changing my mind. This yarn is crazy soft, much softer than I would expect for such a high ply and a tight twist. That high ply also means that the stitch definition of this yarn is off the charts. I also found that I really enjoyed working with the lighter weight cotton. I don't know, maybe that's why I've been so averse to cotton for these many years. The sport weight yarn means that I get more fabric out of less yardage and my project can stay lightweight. It seems obvious, but I really just hadn't thought of it that way. Crocheting with rainbow cotton was really pleasant, even with those wacky colors that I chose. I can only imagine working up a baby blanket or a summer top with a sport weight or even fingering weight version of this yarn. My only concern is for pilling. With such buttery softness like you get with rainbow cotton, you're likely to have some pilling, though not nearly as much as you would get with a wool yarn. It's certainly not a deal breaker, but something to keep an eye out for. With all that being said, I'm giving Hobbii Rainbow 7 out of 10 hooks. It's a great cotton as cottons go, but I'm still warming up to it. So I want to give a big shout out to my friends at Hobbii for sponsoring this video and sending me this yarn. With so many of us still purchasing yarn online, it's nice to have another place to find reasonably priced alternatives as well as some unexpected yarns. If you have some time, roam around Hobbii's website. Each page of their yarns offers customer reviews, recommended patterns, and photo galleries of items made by their customers. Hobbii also offers bulk discounts on some of their yarns, which means that you can save some major cash when purchasing for sweaters or blankets, up to 40% off in some cases. I'm hoping to try some of their hooks and accessories next time around. For now, I have to think of what to do with this 10-pack of fingering weight rainbow that I just added to my yarn shelf. If you have yarns you'd like me to review, of course drop your recommendations down in the comments, and please do let me know what you think of the Hobbii yarns I reviewed today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.